Today, we can reflect on the theme, Enslaved by Customs and Traditions. We see that sometimes we are so governed by customs and traditions that we tend to follow it just for the sake of following it. Sometimes we may not know why the tradition or why that particular custom had come into being. Of course, at that particular point of time, there may have been a good reason for it. But then we see that these seem to be followed just out of fear or because they have to be followed. And therefore, when Jesus speaks about this, he says that we need to be practical. And if something doesn't help man, then we should not do it. Today, we see that Jesus in today's gospel helps everyone to understand the significance of purity. Now, for the Jews, purity meant observing the laws and customs. For them, the relationship with God was more of a barter system. That means you follow the law, you follow the rules, you do everything what you're expected to do, and then you can be assured that you will receive the grace of God. And as a result of this, the whole aspect of the merciful Lord, the whole aspect of the loving, caring nature of God was put aside, because the Jews felt that they deserved to get that particular grace. But when Jesus tells us, he says that God is always loving and merciful. And even if we falter, even if we fail, he is always there to accept and mercifully take us back. And this is what makes the difference between Jesus' teaching and that of the Jews. Now, coming to the first reading of today, we see that the first reading speaks once again about the formation of man, the breath of life which enters into man. And we see that every day this breath of life from God enters into our lives in various ways. It enters into our lives through people around us, through graces, through blessings, in so many ways. And sometimes we are not able to recognize it. And for this particular reason, we need to introspect into our lives. We need to analyze our day-to-day doings. And in this way, we will be able to recognize the workings of God in our lives. And another aspect that is seen in the first reading of today is the whole aspect of the disobedience of man. In a sense that God had given a condition that eat of any tree except of the tree of the knowledge. And we see that it becomes difficult for man in order to obey such kind of commands. Because we see that man always tries to do something above. He always tries to be superior. And as a result of that, sometimes we tend to ignore the teachings, the calling of God in our lives. A glance at the gospel of today reveals that Jesus wants us to come closer to God. Now, some Jews at that time felt that they should abandon these old customs and return to the signs of the time, that they should follow the signs of the time and give up on certain customs which are not useful. But at the same time, there were other Jews who felt that they should stick to these customs. Now, these customs had come especially during the time of the exile, where it was important for them to maintain their identity. And therefore, we see that Jesus tells them that it is necessary not to stick to everything just for the sake of doing it. Jesus, in a way, overturns things. And he says that not what goes inside, but what comes outside of a man can defile him. Yesterday we saw in the first reading that God created everything and it was good. And Jesus uses the same logic. If everything is good, then nothing what goes inside of man can defile him. But man being man, his evil thoughts, his desires, his inner intentions, all these can defile him. Because sometimes through our words, through our actions, we can hurt others and we can destroy relationships. And this is what Jesus wants us to focus on today. Jesus then gives us other ways to attain purity. And these are by doing good deeds, by loving our neighbor as we love ourselves, and most importantly, by living according to the gospel values and according to the teachings of Jesus. And in a way, my dear friends, today let us pray for this grace, that we too may be able to recognize the working of God in our lives, and that we may be open to the call of God, so that we may be able to radiate His mercy, love, and compassion to others and to all whom we meet today.